the good results of PropNext, as well as many of you, I say, well, this is a good sign. Why? Because the more money Ismail and all of you make, the more taxes I collect. So please continue to work very hard and pay me more taxes.
Thank you so much, sir. We are happy to pay double the amount of taxes what we paid the previous year, as long as we can earn double the amount.
Yeah, good. I look forward to that, Ismail.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Paying taxes is an honor and a privilege because you earn enough to pay, so that's good.
Yeah, truly I felt that way, and I think every year when I pay higher taxes, I really don't have any emotional agony pain, honestly. Because the fact here is this, we pay a fraction of it, and I think, and it is indeed for the benefit of the society. Okay, so I'm going to ask the first question. I think the first question generally is going to be about real estate, and we know one of the concerns that we had here is this: is the government taking too active a role, and to make sure that, I know the macro is a sustainable market, but are we taking too active a role to come up with cooling measures? And to the extent, from a layman perspective, they also tend to think the government maybe is interfering too much. Why don't let the normal demand and supply take its course? And is this the way it is going to be in the near future? The government taking a too active a role as far as the real estate market is concerned? And what's your view on this?
Well, I think that's a very important question. Now, I think many of you will know that I was Managing Director of the Monetary Authority of Singapore during the global financial crisis. And, you know, the global financial crisis took place about 10 years after the Asian financial crisis. And in the Asian financial crisis, it was excessive borrowing in the wrong currency, which led to a big shutdown in the Asian economies, and many people suffered. And in the global financial crisis, the irony of it is that it happened in the most developed markets in the world, in the US and in Europe. And the worst thing is, it started actually with a big property problem. Because real estate values that were not worth that amount was repackaged through financial engineering into products which got AAA rating, and they got sold to European markets. And when the crisis happened, it is not only the homeowners in America who suffered. They bought things which they could not afford, and then it was packaged into what was, highly rated assets, which were then sold to many European investors and all over the world. And the result is not just the bad result is not just in America or Europe, it's all over the world. And you have one of the worst global financial crises. So, why is that so? Well, it is the nature of property, the nature of property cycles. Real asset value, which is a prediction about future value, goes through cycles. The global economy goes through cycle, and property goes through cycle as well. And I think many of you will be familiar with this term, irrational exuberance. That markets on its own can become very irrational because everybody says prices are going up, and it can only go up further. So better buy. And the result is that the prices overshoot, and then when it comes down, it also overshoots. So you have huge cycles, which is not good for your business and not good for individuals. And that's why we are always careful that first we have to ensure that our buyers do not suffer from the irrational exuberance. They don't end up thinking that there's only one way but up, and then in the end when they suffer, it is not just they who suffer, but the entire family and many people. So I think it's important for us to bear that in mind. That it can be a good investment, but you have to think long term. It cannot be that, I'm trying to time my cycle at the ups and downs. And that's why we have to take action. And the other thing is that, property, unlike buying stocks and shares, for many people it's a home, and for which you are going to service for many years. And it's if they cannot afford it, it will be a huge problem. Similarly, so other assets, you can be more relaxed about it, but in the case of property, it is a home, and for many, many people, it is likely to be their biggest investment ever in their lifetime. So we have to take this seriously.
I can accept that from a macro perspective, sir, and did explain even from the global perspective of in the past, where people having to have the consequences of a meltdown. So put it the other way. What would have taken if last year there wasn't a cooling measure? I mean maybe I put it in another way here is, what in the eyes of the authorities is sustainable? Because last year, the first 6 months, almost 7%, and it was going towards a double digit. Would you then say 3 to 5% is sustainable? Or when will the government not come and interfere if it is deemed as sustainable?
Well, you asked a very hard question, because as to what is sustainable. It reminds me that when I was running a central bank, I used to go to Switzerland for central bank governors meeting, and seated next to me, because we were seated by alphabetical order, and I'm always seated next to the governor from Saudi Arabia. And the favorite question that was asked of him is, "Governor, you are from Saudi Arabia, the largest oil producer. Tell us, what is the trend of oil prices?" And he was an elderly gentleman. And he would smile and said, "How would I know?" "But you are the biggest oil producer, and you are part of the OPEC. Surely you know." So he got asked the question so many times that once he brought a magazine, and this was a very famous international magazine. And on the cover of the magazine was oil at $5. Yeah. Because there was a prediction that there was such a global oversupply of oil that oil will be up at $5. And immediately, a few months after this magazine was published as the lead story, front page story, oil prices went up to beyond $50 because OPEC came in, they reduced supply, and they said, well, it is a fool's game to try and predict how oil prices would go up or down. But if you ask me, on a long-term basis, what would be a sustainable rate of increase? Now, all long-dated assets, property included, derive their value from the discounted future cash flow of earnings. And in this case, for property, it will be the value of rental that one could get over a lifetime. And at the end of it, it must be the rate of economic growth and the rate of wage growth. So how much can we expect our wages to go up so that we can continue to afford a house? How far will the economy grow? And how much will the population grow? Those are long-term factors which we can predict. And the key to that is, first and foremost, will Singapore still be there as a country? Right? If it is going to be there, yes, the property value will have some value. And that's why our young men and women and all the men here doing national service is important, because the country is still there. It's a sovereign nation, and therefore we must take defense seriously. Two, will the economy continue to grow? If the economy collapses, like what happened during the Asian financial crisis, global financial crisis, values just went down significantly. And three, what are people's expectation of what will be the long-term economic growth? If I see that the long-term economic growth is zero, the value of the property cannot rise very much. And that's why many of the things that we do is really for us to ensure that we have sustainable long-term growth. So in addition to my job as Minister for Finance, I'm also chairman of our Future Economy Council, where we have to look at how do we continue to sustain the growth of our economy. I'm also chairman of our National Research Foundation, so we're putting money into R&D in order to help all the different industries transform. And the importance of industry transformation is critical. You know, many years ago, when I was a kid, if you want to buy anything, it's your neighborhood provision shop. That's the only place available. Today, people buy everything online. So what used to be a little neighborhood shop that is completely protected from competition is no longer so. You and I, as consumers, want the best and the cheapest. And we are buying not just from the shop in our neighborhood, we are buying from everywhere around the world. So you see all the online purchases and so on. It's a trend that you and I, if you tell Singapore consumers, don't ever buy online, I think you will get a big problem. Everybody wants the best, right? So it will happen. Now, then what happens to our neighborhood shop? We're thinking hard about what to do. Next to my office is Funan, the digital mall. Those of you who are old enough will remember that as students, we go to the digital mall to buy computers, like laptops and all that. Today, it's all online. So what is Funan doing? They knock down the entire building to create now an experience mall. So I've been complaining that they created so much noise in my office because every day I hear pong pong pong. So they felt very embarrassed. They've been briefing me on what they're going to do and promising that this will be a great lifestyle mall and your staff will be very happy at the end of this. So I'm looking forward to that. But things change and we have to accept the changes. But the question is, can we be creative about creating the next business model for us to do better?
Thank you so much, sir. I think the key